Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of Best Albums by Year 1973. So we started in 1971 and we're going to go all the way to present in 2021. So we're going to look back at the best 50 albums over the last 50 years. And one of the things I'm choosing to do, at least for my portion of this, is only pick a band once. So as opposed to picking an artist and choosing an album of theirs every single year they put one out, I will only list the artist and a particular album once in this list, which is proving to be very difficult as I'm a fan of a lot of these bands and a lot of these albums that came out during these years, but it's making it far more interesting in my opinion and making me really have to get down to choosing what it is that makes that album great for me. So this episode is going to focus on 1973, but before we dive into that, if you are new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like. All those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this, with Best Albums by Year 1973. So in full disclosure, I want to point out that I wasn't born until 1976. So while I didn't grow up during 1973, I am coming at it from a different approach here. But to the same degree, I like these albums all the same. They're fantastic albums, but obviously if you grew up with them, you might have a different take on them than I will. So to set the mood, set the context, so to speak, I want to run through a bit of history that was going on that year. Richard Nixon was sworn in for his second term as president. Watergate scandal was still going on at this point, and the existence of the 18.5 minutes of the president's tapes, or the missing part of those tapes, was revealed, became a big deal as part of Watergate. CBS sells the New York Yankees for $10 million. The Vietnam War peace negotiations are in progress. Roe versus Wade was overturned, or it overturns, I should say, the ban on abortions at the time. Certainly a present thing going on right now in 2021. The Godfather wins Best Picture at the Academy Awards. The World Trade Center in New York City opens officially. And the Sears Tower in Chicago is finished and becomes the world's tallest building, at least at that time, at 1,451 feet tall. NASA launches Skylab, and NASA's unmanned spacecraft Pioneer 10 sends back the first images of Jupiter. A lot of big things going on that year. The Secretariat, which is a horse, wins the Triple Crown that year. There's a famous movie made about that. The United States DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, is launched, and the ITT building in New York City is bombed, and Spiro Agnew resigns as vice president, pleading no contest to tax evasion charges. So a lot of interesting things there, but of course we are here to talk about the music, of which 1973 was an amazing year for music, and I've got 5 runner-up albums to discuss with you. First one being maybe a surprising one that I didn't choose. If a lot of you guys know that I'm a Pink Floyd fan, you might wonder why not. But Dark Side of the Moon, fantastic album. Definitely a career-defining one for the band, and I do love it very much, but I am saving my Pink Floyd pick for later on. Another one that is absolutely fantastic, and I think also a career-defining album for this artist, Paul McCartney and Wings, Band on the Run, probably their best album of the Wings catalog in my opinion. And then this one here is an interesting one, The Stooges' Raw Power, and while this one may not have been as successful as some of these other albums, I do think the impact that it made is absolutely immeasurable and worth being considered for Best Album of the Year in 1973. And then I've got Black Sabbath, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Such a great album, but what I find interesting is, and I don't know if you guys also have this, I know you can't see it when I did that, but it says 1974 on it, but the album itself was actually released in December of 1973, so I am including it in this listing here. And then the other one being The Who in Quadrophenia. This is a super deluxe edition box set version of it. Second rock opera that they did, and again, certainly a career-defining move for them, as they still sometimes perform that in its entirety live in concert. So I know a lot of fans out there for that one there. But the album that I am choosing to go with as my best album by year for 1973 is going to go to Alice Cooper, Billion Dollar Babies, 6th studio album from him. This one here features 10 tracks on it, and it was definitely his biggest selling album at the time. Went to #1 in both the US and the UK and was ultimately certified platinum. But for me, this album here, the reason I'm going with it is it's the most consistent record by the band, in my opinion. Definitely in terms of sound quality and in terms of style. I always felt some of the earlier albums had some inconsistencies or some tunes that were a little out of left field on it. And I know that's kind of the character of Alice Cooper. But this one here definitely rocked all the way through, and so pulled me in much more than some of the other ones. And it featured 4 hit singles on the Billboard Hot 100. As I said, definitely his biggest album. So No More Mr. Nice Guy went to #25, and that was the highest charting single for him. And personally, I always really liked the Megadeth version of that song from the Shocker soundtrack. As I said, I came into this a bit later, so a lot of Alice Cooper's early songs I first learned of by other artists covering them before I went back to find the original artist, and then of course fell in love with Alice Cooper that way. Elected went to #26, and that's actually a re-recording of the song Reflected, which is off of his 1969 album Pretty's for You. So he did it in 1973 for the election year, and I'm sure that in turn is why this song also charted and did so well for it. Another single off it, Hello Hooray, went to 35, and Billion Dollar Babies, the title track itself, went to #57. But you know, the interesting thing is there's some album cuts on here that are just as big as those singles, but of course these weren't released as singles, at least not at the time. Generation Landslide and I Love the Dead, which is a personal fave of mine, and it's still played in concert to this day, which I find really interesting that a non-single from this album is still played in concert by them. But I really love it. I always love this part in the show when they do it. It's usually after the beheading of Alice Cooper, and they play that song there. And another thing that I found out about this album that was pretty interesting to me was that it apparently inspired Talking Heads frontman David Byrne to write the song Psycho Killer, which was a hit for them. So what I found from this album is that, you know, it's not only a great album, popular at the time and a commercial success and all of that sort of stuff, but it also inspired other musicians at the time. So making this a quintessential album for Alice Cooper and my favorite album of 1973. So the other thing is that I wanted to point out, this is a deluxe edition of it that came out in 2001. It's a 2 CD set and features a bonus disc in it that has 11-track live show as well as 3 outtakes on it. And then the packaging itself recreates the vinyl edition, so those of you that grew up with it would recognize this, but you know, I didn't, so this was a new thing to me. And the CD done a little differently so that it can open like that, but the regular disc and then the bonus disc there. And it's got the little perforated punch-out things there on that, and then the booklets in this part. And the booklet's a cool thing too, because at least in this deluxe edition, a lot of great stuff in here. It's got a really good write-up and some cool photos and things of that nature, making this one really worthwhile. I don't think this is in print any longer either, so definitely worth picking up if you can find this, all the lyrics and things in the back of it, and then album related stuff, and for those bonus tracks and outtakes and things. So pretty cool there, 24-page booklet in all with that. And then the other thing I wanted to point out was this. He released the Billion Dollar Babies live album, 1973, Record Store Day exclusive in 2019. Very well done. Good sound quality on this and so forth. That's the same 11 live tracks that are from this release on CD, got their vinyl release for the first time in 2019 there. So really cool that they did that you could get this in some multiple ways like that. If you are a CD fan like me, you can still get a hold of the double disc to get your live album. But for you vinyl nuts out there, you can get this. A lot of great stuff for that album. And I would like to give just a little shout out to the other 1973 album that Alice Cooper released the same year, which is Muscle of Love. And I very nearly went with this one here. I love this one. It doesn't have the hits like obviously Billion Dollar Babies does, but that is a very consistent album from start to finish. I've always really loved that one there too, and I would definitely recommend checking that out if you're not familiar with that one. But there you go, Alice Cooper, Billion Dollar Babies is my best album of 1973 pick. Don't forget to check the description for links to related videos. In particular, I'll put the last edition in here from 1972 and 1971 where we started in this. You can check those out. And certainly if you enjoyed this video and you're still watching, maybe consider sharing it out on social media and help spread the word that way. I would also really appreciate it. All right, and don't forget to check back because up next, 1974. We're going to keep on moving on down the road with this until we get all the way to 2021. So take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you all real soon. Bye-bye.